Hi everyone, my name is Juan Guajardo. Um, Today we're going to be talking about your new integration, the out of the office calendar automation by Moveworks, the AI chatbot. It's it's a functional specification document that I created. It contains everything, everything from what we're going to cover, what you need, your current state, your desired to be state, edge cases, testing cases, acceptance criteria, our Jira backlog, and everything. It just contains everything, so it's a little bit long. So I'll make sure to only cover the bullet points, the most important things, and and I'll try to be as sufficient as I can. So let's go ahead and start. What are we trying to solve for here? We're trying to manage out of the office calendar events directly through Moveworks. That means we're gonna eliminate the necessity of going to Outlook and setting that up yourself, to say the very least. That's one of the things that we can do. There's gonna be a lot of things we're gonna be able to do with the API. It's gonna be Microsoft Graph API, so that's gonna give us the possibility of creating, canceling, modifying. Obviously, we're gonna need stakeholders to help us with that, especially in the IT field from your team that can help us grant us those access so that we can give our engineers those and start building the integration. Now, obviously, by embedding this, like I told you, we're gonna get the possibility of doing all of that. That is going to increase accuracy, visibility, and efficiency across the teams. We're gonna make sure that team members are not joining or like having invites for meeting sessions they won't be able to attend to because they're out of the office. We're gonna make sure that as soon as people get a PDO notification that is accepted, that is essentially gonna trigger an out of the office calendar event, and we're gonna make sure that that same out of the office calendar event is sent to this employee's colleagues to understand, so they can understand that this person is going to be out of the office for those days and plan ahead of that. For that, we're going to need a clean data structure to understand what are the positions of people. So the way in which that works is you got to make sure that so if you understand you're using Microsoft or you're possibly using Entra ID or Azure, so in those, just make sure you have the department and the roles. That way we can connect to the employee to its department, and let's say somebody's part of the IT department. Due to the hierarchy, this person, talks to other team members that are the same level. So we'll make sure that notification goes to everyone the same level and the direct manager. Again, we gotta make sure that your database is cleaned up and ready for us to be connected. But we'll get there. There's just a lot of things we're gonna have to do. That's part of the project overview. And to finalize the main project overview, essentially we're gonna do a 3-month engagement. It's gonna be six 2-week sprints plus a 2-week white glove period of hypercare. Now, essentially right here, what we're trying to do, the expected outcome is to increase out of the office calendar coverage, reduce meeting conflicts, and have high chatbot adoption here. We want to make sure everyone uses this. We want to make sure everyone understands this is the new process. This is the new normal. What's in scope for the project? Creating out of the office events. What's not in scope? Modifying another employees out of the office events. Creating courtesy free events on colleagues calendar, same level, like I told you, making sure that we have the data integrity on Entra ID. We're gonna make sure we audit those contacts when we ingest those. But yeah, this is not gonna function with any other calendars that are not Outlook. We're gonna make sure we modify existing out of the office events, and we want to make sure we cancel existing out of the office events. We want to make sure we're consistent with the existing Moveworks out of the office flow, and we want to make sure we have confirmation messages for all of these actions, and we want to make sure we have an overview of very specific edge cases and how to handle them. We don't want to do. We're not gonna do out of the office events as a bulk for the organization. We're not gonna do push notifications. This is gonna be solely in the agent. Now, now, now that we talk about the overview and what we're trying to solve for, the solution right here, like I've been mentioning, is gonna be the AI chatbot. So essentially, this is going to solve for human error and manual tasks. So having to contact an HR person and then that HR person having to remember to update their internal system for to account for this person's PTO request, and then get an approval there, and then essentially move that approval as a notification to the employee, and then that employee having to add that setting to his calendar to add that out of the office request. I'm sorry, that out of the office notification. That's a huge process that we're trying to solve for. How? By unifying all of that stuff into a chatbot. Without being too technical, I can say this. At the end of the day, what the amazing thing about AI and the systems that we have is that when we have an API connection, let's say a webhook, we can synchronize instantaneously. So we can pull information from a place, but also post information to a place, but also modify information from a place, and essentially do anything we want, as long as you allow us to. Again, the IT department is going to have to grant those permissions, but essentially, there is no difference between an HR employee inputting those fields and our unified AI agent that is essentially going to input those fields so someone else can approve them. Simple as that. So this is amazing because AI is so intelligent that it's going to be able to ingest that information, it's going to consume it, and it's going to be able to understand what it means and essentially do an action for you, which is another connection either to Outlook or a notification for you or for your employees. Some people say that AI is going to take your job. It's not that AI is going to take your job. It's that you're going to have to you're going to be able to focus on more important stuff rather than these repetitive tasks. AI, if there was a job to only modify PTO requests, yes, that'd be the case, but that's not very efficient. So we're trying to make sure that with natural language and open prompts, you can go ahead and create several actions. So there's not going to have to be a lot of user training. Like the same AI agent is intelligent enough to tell you how to use it. And we can create a short video so that people understand that this is the new normal and that this is the way in which this is going to work from now on. The intention is that they play with this. They understand this is a part of their tools for HR and requests. This is also going to allow us to audit everything. Everything is going to be locked. So timestamp, employee ID, outcome, full audit trail. Obviously, we're going to make sure that those fields are in Azure or Entra. Now, the technical design. Essentially, like I told you, we're going to be able to post, patch, and delete from Microsoft Graph Calendar API. Please give us that contact. Now, regarding Azure Entra ID, we're going to need delegated tokens. So that's going to be a scope per employee. It's not going to be stored in the chat history, so don't worry about your cybersecurity right there. Now, regarding colleague lookups, that is going to be done through AD, and that is going to be a list confirmed before creating the events. So we're going to make sure we confirm that information. That's going to be part of the scope. But if the data is clean enough, if we trust in this data, after doing all the UAT case scenarios, we can also automate that task. But we gotta understand first where we're at once we make the connection and test it. I would suggest having a sandbox and filling all that with your employees' information once you clean that up, so we can do tests and check if there's integrity in the fields. We can create internal test cases where we do bulk cases to see if that there's all of the fields necessary to perform this. And if some of those are needed, we can let you know, and you guys can go ahead and change this. But yeah, this is an immediate synchronization, fortunately, because it's an API connection. So we're gonna be able to get every new change you make as you make it. But yeah, now the functional scope, yes. What's in this? Like I told you, out of the offense, event creation, modification, cancellation, courtesy-free, colleague notifications, edge cases, past events, duplicate periods, ambiguous dates, and API failures. We're gonna account for all of that to make sure this works. Now, the backlog structure. So this is something that's internal, of course. This is under the hood, but just to give you an idea, we have around 10 epics. 6 functional, essentially creation, colleague notifications, dash, modify, cancel, edge cases, and then audit, testing, rollout, and essentially stories about those, and acceptance criteria. So this is going to be very well audited, and it's going to have the quality expected to deliver into production. We're not going to deliver into production until we can successfully tell you that this is going to work how we want it to. Now, yes, we're gonna have that hypercare period for 2 months. So 2 months, we're gonna be making sure that this is working as expected. Obviously, we're always gonna be here, but for 2 months, we're gonna be closer. In the future, obviously, if you need something from our side, you can open a support ticket, and we'll be happy to take a look at that as soon as possible. But for 2 months, we'll make sure that everything is functioning as it should be. Now, regarding the delivery plan. So we're gonna have, like I told you, 6 sprints. The first one, the kickoff, we need to make sure we have the Entra app registered. Of course, that's how we essentially are gonna do the first task, which is the out of the office creation, and this is going to have to be validated end to end in staging. As we get to those phases, I'm gonna showcase these UAT phases to you guys, so you can validate that this is the expected behavior that you have within the application. And if you have any questions, you're gonna be able to let me know, and we're gonna change the UAT phases or the acceptance criteria, and then move towards like the finalization of the project, of course. Now, I don't want to take too long, but this is a long project. But essentially, then after the out of the office creation, which is the second sprint, we're gonna do a colleague notification sprint, which is number 3. Make sure that we can do colleague notifications, modifications, cancel flows. We also want to make sure we in the 4th sprint we do edge cases, audit logging, and do a security review, and also a performance testing. And then in the 5th UAT, we want to make sure we're testing, we're doing all the UAT for everything, and also confirming that with all of you for all the flows, and finally just the hypercare. Now, the success metrics for me is out of the office calendar coverage for at least more than 90% of your employees. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work for the other 10%. That means adoption. So we want to make sure this is adopted for all your employees. We want to make sure that obviously as you adopt this, we want to see that the meeting conflicts lower. So we would like to see at least 75% less meeting conflicts as you guys adopt this, and essentially we're gonna account for those as we go live. So I'm gonna be requesting this data, and as we move on, we're gonna see how this is being projected, and see if me reaching out is needed or stepping in is needed. We're gonna do that and act accordingly. We're not gonna finalize the project until all the acceptance criteria has been met. Don't worry about that. That's being accounted for in the backlog. Now, what we need to confirm, like I mentioned, we need the name of the stakeholders. That means, and I have a list here, and because again, this is a lot of info. So give me 1 second. So we have a list. So we're gonna need the main technical point of contact. We're gonna need the main contact, the project lead, which is that possibly could be the main technical point of contact too. It doesn't matter if many people is the same contact, but I'm gonna send you a list, a chart, and then you can fill it up. And yeah, essentially we're also gonna need a security lead for your employee information, to make sure that we're hitting that authentication protocol regardless if it's SAML, LDAP, CAS. But yeah, we want to make sure we're going according to your standards. We are SOC 2 certified, so I wouldn't worry about that, but we want to make sure that we're in line here. We're also going to need an HR stakeholder to make sure we have a good review or a good scope for the integrity of the data. And in our side, we're going to have a solutions architect to understand, all the flows and all the necessities for your organization. The engagement manager, which in this case that's me. I'm going to be in the front line with you guys and in the back end with the developers to ensure that we have this connection. I'm going to be the bridge of connection between the technical information and the delivery of the project. So I'm in charge of the project. Anything you need, that's me. And I'll make sure that we reach completion. If we can't, I'll make sure to inform you of why, and I'll make sure to step in when all the time to ensure that the project is delivered in time. Because we understand how important this is for you, of course. There's also going to be a technical lead, of course, in our team, which is going to ensure that all of the technical tasks we're doing are in order, and a QA lead also on our side to audit quality in the project. I'll send you their emails so you know who they are, and essentially ensure that you have all the information you need all the time, and also please send me the information we need to go over that. So that's about it. We're gonna move now to the FAQ section. Again, I don't want to take too long, but yeah, I'm about to finish. Okay, so questions. Can an employee modify a colleague's out of the office event through the bot? No. Obviously no. That's out of the scope. Our bot is only going to operate on your authenticated credentials. So if you get fired, you won't be able to get in because you're going to revoke access for that employee. If you're not an employee, you're not going to be able to access because this only works with your SSO and your credentials and your IP address. If you guys enforce it that way, that's going to be up to how you set it up. Now, what I was going to tell you, this is obviously part of the IT security. So this is how it's going to work. Now, regarding what happens if the Microsoft Graph API goes down? Does the bot just fail silently? No, there's a retry logic, so don't worry about that. This is going to be up to 3 times with exponential backoff. Why? Because we don't want to call the API too much and then make it so that we can't call it till 24 hours. So we are going to account for how many times we can call the API and how much time do we need to wait till each call. And this is going to be accounted for in the UAT scenarios that we're going to test with you. But yeah, essentially what's going to happen is if there's a surface error that detects there's a prompt issue regarding plain language where we can normalize the text that we need to make this API call and immediately get what we need, we're going to stop there and first improve the prompt, get the actual prompt we need, and then call the API. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. Now, regarding how our employee token stored, an IT question that is important. So how are employee tokens stored and who has access to the audit logs? So tokens are stored in per employee in Azure AD in the SSO. They're not stored in the chat history. It's not possible. The chat doesn't allow for API credentials, of course. So even if you were an IT guy and you were trying to, I don't know, change your API credentials to another profile to connect. So let's say you're an IT guy, you went to Azure, you generated an API token, and then you write to the chat, okay, go ahead and change this person's calendar. Even if you had that API with that person's, even if you had that person's API, supposedly, you wouldn't be able to do that. This is scoped and only works with your SSO, nothing more. This is authenticated calling the system, and when you call the system, you get an immediate token every 60 seconds when you make the call. This has to come from OAuth and your type of SSO that we're gonna account for. So yeah, and even AI bots wouldn't take these API credentials. Claude doesn't do it. ChatGPT doesn't do it. Our API solution, our AI solution doesn't do it. It's just how it works for security purposes. Now, we already have an out of the office flow in Outlook. Why would employees switch to the chatbot? Okay, so the prompt is going to fire automatically. So you get your PTO request and you don't have to remember to set up your out of the office. Now, essentially you get that accepted, and pretty much then you get the out of the office in your calendar as an immediate action. That's going to be automated. Now, that's going to be the path of least resistance and least manual intervention. So it's better to, again, unify everything into one single chat. But I know a lot of these things can be done outside, but the motto, the vision of the company is to avoid creating tools or using a variety of tools for a multitude of things when you can have just one thing that does everything for you. That's the beauty of AI. Now, what's the rollback plan if something goes wrong during the phase rollout? So we're gonna do a documented rollout plan. It's gonna have criteria before phase one launches. You guys are gonna have to accept our rollout plan and essentially make sure you understand all of the issues that can surface at a low blast radius as we go broader. So as we move broader and essentially deploy this, you guys gotta understand what we're gonna have to account for, and then as we test it, and essentially that's gonna have to be part of the white glove phase for the hypercare. Now, can this extend to Google Calendar or other calendars that are not Outlook? Nope. This is just for Outlook. Works only with Entra and Azure. This is M365 pretty much. Who owns the service, principal and Azure AD after the engagement ends? You guys are gonna own it. So you're gonna have to make sure that you guys own everything regarding Azure AD like you've always done. It's good that we're gonna do a deliverable. Just ensure to have your data cleaned up, and just we're gonna document everything so that you guys can take care of this, of how you need data to be stored in a way that we can read. And obviously we're always gonna be here for IT purposes if you need us. Now, how does the bot handle employees in different time zones? Okay, yes. So essentially, this is time zone aware. Essentially, the bot knows where a person is and essentially accounts for the time difference. So if somebody's in London, it'll get the calendar adjusted to that time zone, or vice versa. There's no manual intervention there. What else? Okay, so when the 3 months are up for your hypercare, what's support going to look like? So essentially, once we finalize those 3 months, and once we're gonna start the 2-week hypercare period, and essentially after that we're gonna go and move to the standard support channels. Okay, this is way too long, but I'm gonna share that document to you guys, and I'm expecting to receive that information, and we're gonna have more regular meetings. I'm gonna send you the dates for those meetings. I also have a link where you can click and essentially get my calendar dates. What we need to ensure is that as we move to the UAT phases, I want to meet with you and validate that everything works in the way you want. And I'm gonna send you a list of things we need regarding the data that we need and if it's clean or not. And essentially, I'm gonna have to meet with the IT department, the HR department, and meet regularly. I would suggest at the very least once a week, because this is gonna be a 12-week project, so definitely once a week. And yeah, that's it. Any more other questions, let me know, and have a wonderful day. Bye.